It took 20 years to build the pride of the Royal Navy. It took one German shell less than 60 seconds to rip it in half. 1,418 men were gone in a pillar of fire. This is the story of the 1-in-a-million shot that triggered the greatest naval hunt in history. May 24th, 1941. 2 hours. The Denmark Strait. You are standing on the compass platform of the HMS Hood, and you are freezing. It is not a gentle cold. It is a penetrating, wet, North Atlantic cold that soaks through your duffel coat and into your bones. The steel deck beneath your boots vibrates with the immense thrumming power of 144,000 horsepower turbines, pushing 48,000 tons of warship through the icy black water at a punishing 28 knots. Sea spray, heavy as liquid ice, crashes over the bow and rakes the superstructure, freezing almost instantly to the bulkhead. This is not a ship. This is a grey-painted projectile, the largest, fastest, and most famous warship in the world. She is the mighty Hood, the pride of the Royal Navy, and she is hunting. On the bridge, Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland stares into the blackness. He is a man running on stale air, adrenaline, and scalding hot thick, sweet cocoa served to sailors at action stations. For over 24 hours, his force has been in relentless pursuit. The enemy is just ahead, somewhere in the gloom, obscured by intermittent snow squalls and fog. The enemy is the Bismarck, the single most powerful and technologically advanced battleship afloat, and she is attempting to break out into the Atlantic to sever Britain's lifeline. Holland's own ship, the Hood, is a 20-year-old compromise. She is beautiful, powerful, and fast, but she is a battle cruiser. She was designed before the Battle of Jutland taught the Royal Navy the fatal consequences of thin deck armour. A refit to improve it was scheduled for 1939, but the war came too soon. Everyone on this bridge knows her flaw. They know that a high-angle, plunging shell the exact kind fired in a long-range engagement could pierce her deck and find her magazines. Admiral Holland's entire strategy is built around this terrifying vulnerability. He must close the distance. He must get Hood in close, where the enemy's shells will strike her thick 12-inch side belt, not her 3-inch deck. Behind Hood, struggling in the heavy seas, is the HMS Prince of Wales. She is a brand-new King George V-class battleship, a true modern dreadnought, but she is too new. Her quadruple 14-inch gun turrets are a revolutionary, complex design, and they are not working properly. In fact, civilian contractors from the Vickers Armstrong Company are still on board the ship, frantically trying to work out the mechanical kinks in her main armament during the chase. Her captain, John Leach, knows he is taking an untested ship into the fight of its life. For hours, the only sign of the enemy has been the flickering green ghost on a radar scope. The heavy cruisers Suffolk and Norfolk have been masterfully shadowing the German squadron, darting in and out of fog banks, reporting every change in course. At 5:05, the atmosphere on Hood's bridge changes. The tension, already a physical weight, doubles. The lookout, perched high in the spotting top, screams into his microphone, "Enemy in sight, bearing green 40. Holland raises his binoculars. There, 17 miles away, are two grey silhouettes against the pale, ghostly light of the subarctic dawn. One is massive, the other slightly smaller. The Bismarck and her consort, the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen. At 5:35, Holland makes his decision. The range is 25,000 yards. It is still dangerously far, but the Germans have seen them. The chase is over. The battle is about to begin. On the flagship's bridge, a voice cuts through the wind. Battle ensigns, hoist. Massive white ensigns, the flag of the Royal Navy, are run up the masts. On the Prince of Wales, Captain Leach does the same. At 5:49, Admiral Holland turns to his flag lieutenant. "Make the signal. Open fire." The order flashes by signal lamp to the Prince of Wales. On Hood, the gunnery officer, Commander Tubby Ruck Keane, receives the order in the A-turret director control tower. He is aiming at the lead German ship, believing it to be the Bismarck. It's a critical mistake. The lead ship is the Prinz Eugen. The ship's internal warning bells, the action gongs, ring with a deafening, frantic clangor. C-L-A-N-G, 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 C-L-A-N-G. At 5:52, Admiral Holland gives the final command, fire. It does not sound like a gunshot. It sounds like the world is ending. Aboard Hood, the command is executed. Deep within the four forward 15-inch gun turrets, A and B, 8 1,920-pound shells are slammed into the breeches, followed by cordite propellant charges. The armoured doors seal, the breeches lock, and the ready lights flash green. The forward turrets, their barrels elevated, train to starboard. When they fire, it is a physical event that consumes the ship. A deafening, guttural B-O-O-M, 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 B-O-O-M erupts in a staggered roar. A wall of bright orange-red flame and thick, acrid brown smoke cordite smoke instantaneously engulfs the forward half of the ship, momentarily blinding everyone on the bridge. The shockwave is a physical punch. It kicks up a hurricane of water from the sea, rips the tompions from the muzzles of nearby anti-aircraft guns, and vibrates through the very marrow of your bones. Seconds later, the Prince of Wales fires her own salvo. Her new 14-inch guns join the chorus. High in the air, you can hear the unearthly shriek of the shells, a sound like a freight train passing at supersonic speed as they arc miles across the sky. On the Bismarck, Admiral Gunther Lutyens watches the splashes from Hood's first salvo. They are long, bracketing the Prince Eugen. The British are firing at the wrong ship. Bismarck's gunnery officer, Adalbert Schneider, has Hood perfectly framed in his optics. He has had the range calculated for minutes. He turns to his admiral, his voice urgent over the intercom. Request permission to open fire. Lutyens is a cautious man. His orders are clear. Do not engage capital ships unless forced. Your mission is to attack convoys. He hesitates, but Hood has fired again. And this time, her second salvo straddles Prince Eugen. One shell lands so close, it showers the German cruiser with water. This is no longer a choice. Führerlaubnis. Lutyens commands. Permission to fire. At 5:55, the Germans reply, and they do not make the same mistake. Both Bismarck and Prince Eugen identify the Hood as the lead, most dangerous threat. They concentrate all their fire on her. Bismarck's main 15-inch gun sight of them, newer, more accurate, and firing at a higher velocity than Hood's erupt in a perfectly coordinated salvo. The Prince Eugen follows with her 8-inch guns. On Hood's bridge, the seconds stretch into an agonizing eternity. You are in a duel where you fire, and then you must wait helplessly for the enemy's reply. A lookout screams, "Salvo incoming!" You see them, or rather, the splashes as the Bismarck's first salvo lands. They are frighteningly close, just off the port bow. Schneider's gunnery is superb from the start. Then comes the Prince Eugen's salvo. A ripple of sharp cracks, and then a heavy, percussive crump. The ship shudders. A hit. Aft of the bridge, on the boat deck, an 8-inch shell from Prince Eugen has smashed into the ready-use lockers for the 4-inch anti-aircraft guns. The unrotated projectile, up, rocket launchers, a desperate, almost useless anti-aircraft weapon are also stored there. In an instant, the deck is a raging inferno. A column of thick, oily black smoke mixed with the bright, hard white magnesium flare of burning ammunition erupts skyward. The fire is fed by the propellant for the rockets and the 4-inch shells, which begin cooking off, exploding in the heart of the blaze. Shrapnel scythes across the deck. Vice Admiral Holland sees the fire. It is bad. It is a beacon, silhouetting his ship perfectly for the German gunners. But worse, it is a fire on his vulnerable upper deck. He is a man in a wooden house, and the enemy is throwing matches. His gamble has failed. He has not closed the range fast enough. He must bring his full firepower to bear. His aft turrets, X and Y, are still masked by his own superstructure, unable to fire at this angle. He needs to turn. At 5:57, he gives the order, turn 20 degrees to port. This turn will unmask his aft turrets. It will allow all 10 of Hood's 15-inch guns to join the fight. It is the correct tactical decision. It is also the last decision he will ever make. On the Prince of Wales, sailing behind Hood, Captain Leach sees the flagship begin its turn, the massive fire blazing amidships. His own ship is having problems. Turret has already malfunctioned. On the Bismarck, Adalbert Schneider is watching the Hood through his stereoscopic rangefinder. He has the solution. He sees the British ship turning, presenting its full, long profile. He is not aiming for the bow or the stern. He is aiming directly for the center, for the mainmast, right where he knows the ship's magazines and engine rooms are. He fires Bismarck's fifth salvo. The range is 16,500 yards. The shells, weighing over a ton apiece, climb to the apex of their trajectory, thousands of feet in the air. Then, they begin to fall, plunging downwards at over 1,500 miles per hour, aimed not at the Hood's thick armoured belt, but at her thin, 3-inch deck. 6. The Denmark Strait. On the bridge of the Prince of Wales, Captain Leach and his navigator are staring at the Hood ahead of them. The fire on her boat deck is still burning fiercely, a ragged orange wound in the grey dawn. They are watching the splashes from Bismarck's last salvo. 1, 2, 3. They seem to be a perfect straddle. Then, a fourth shell. It doesn't splash, it doesn't ricochet. It simply vanishes into the Hood, striking her deck somewhere near the main mast. For a fraction of a second, nothing happens. It is the smallest, most terrible pause in history. Aboard Hood, Midshipman William Dundas is standing at his post. He feels a shudder different from the recoil of the guns. It is a deep, bone-jarring impact. He sees a flash of light from aft. He has perhaps half a second to register it. Aboard the Prince of Wales, sailors on the open compass platform are bracing against the wind when one of them, signalman Ted Briggs, sees it. He sees a flicker of intense, pale yellow light, like a magnesium flare, emerge from the Hood's midsection. What happens next is not an explosion. It is an event of geological scale. The 1,500-pound German shell, 1,000,000-to-1 shot, has done the impossible. It has plunged through the Hood's thin 3-inch deck armour and 1-inch splinter deck. It has found the 4-inch magazine. The magazine flashes, and a split second later, that flash ignites the main 15-inch cordite magazines for X and Y turrets. 112 tons of propellant detonate in a single, catastrophic, instantaneous blast. From the Prince of Wales, the crew watches in stunned, paralysed horror. The Hood ceases to exist. A pillar of fire, as one sailor would later call it, erupts from the centre of the ship. It is a vertical, blindingly white column of flame and smoke that punches thousands of feet into the anemic sky, wider than the ship itself. It is not smoke from a fire. It is the instantaneous vaporized remains of the ship's midsection. In that column, clearly visible to the men on the Prince of Wales, is one of Hood's 15-inch gun turrets, X turret, flung end over end like a child's toy. A 1,500-ton piece of steel. The sound, when it finally crosses the intervening mile of water, is not a bang. It is a physical concussion, a solid wall of sound that hits the Prince of Wales with the force of a bomb, stunning the men on deck. The Hood, her back broken by the blast, begins to fold in on herself. The bow, from the bridge forward, rises up out of the water. The stern, from the mainmast aft, also rises. The ship has snapped in two. On the Bismarck, Admiral Lutyens and his gunnery officer, Adalbert Schneider, are looking through their optics, ready to correct their next salvo. They see the hit, they see the flash, and then, where their target was, there is only a roiling, expanding cloud of black and orange smoke, thousands of feet high. The largest warship in the Royal Navy is gone. Back on the Prince of Wales, the sight is grotesque. The bow of the Hood, its A and B turrets, still pointing defiantly forward, is sticking almost vertically out of the sea. Then, with a terrible final lurch, it begins to slide backwards into the ocean. The stern section, burning furiously, vanishes just as quickly. Debris begins to rain down on the Prince of Wales. Splinters of steel, fragments of wood, even clothing, patter against the deck and superstructure. It is all that is left. The impossible has happened. From the fifth salvo's impact to the ship's complete disappearance beneath the waves, less than 3 minutes have passed. The pride of the Royal Navy, the symbol of British sea power for 2 decades, has been annihilated. On her bridge, a young midshipman looks at Captain Leach. The captain's face is a mask of granite. Of the 1,418 men aboard the Hood, the entire Complementary 3 will survive. Vice Admiral Holland is gone. The entire command staff is gone. And Captain Leach of the Prince of Wales is now in command. He is alone, in an untested ship with failing guns, facing the 2 most powerful warships in the German fleet. And he is sailing directly into a cloud of smoke and wreckage that was, just moments ago, his flagship. Hard to starboard. Leach orders. His voice impossibly calm. The Prince of Wales yaws violently to avoid the bloody great bits of the Hood that litter the water, as one of her officers would describe it. As she turns, her own secondary guns open fire and the German salvos begin to land around her. The fight for survival has just begun. You are in the transmitting station of the Prince of Wales, a compartment deep below the waterline, protected by the ship's 15-inch armoured belt. You are surrounded by humming machinery and the frantic voices of men calling out ranges and bearings. You did not see the Hood explode. You only felt a jarring, secondary shockwave that was not from your own guns. Then, the ship leans violently. A hard to starboard turns so sharp it throws men against the bulkheads. The ship's internal telegraphs chime non-stop. Above you, on the bridge, the scene is one of pure, concentrated hell. Captain Leach, his face like stone, now has the undivided attention of both German warships. The Bismarck and Prinz Eugen shift their fire. The ocean around the Prince of Wales becomes a forest of towering 100-foot-high waterspouts as their salvos rain down. The noise is a continuous, deafening drumbeat of near misses and the high-pitched, terrifying shriek of incoming shells. The Prince of Wales is firing back, but she is failing. Inside A turret, the forwardmost quadruple 14-inch turret, the crew is in a state of controlled panic. A shell has jammed. The complex machinery designed to ram the 1,560-pound projectiles is malfunctioning. The civilian contractors, in their sweaters and flannel trousers, are desperately working alongside the Royal Navy gun crew, smeared in grease and sweat, trying to clear the breach. The turret is out of action. Inside Y turret, the aftmost turret, the story is the same. Mechanical failure. Of the 10 14-inch guns the ship carries, only the 2 guns in B turret and a handful of the secondary 5.25-inch guns are still firing at the enemy. The Prince of Wales is being clubbed to death, and she can barely fight back. At 6-2, a 15-inch shell from Bismarck strikes the compass platform, the open-air bridge just above Captain Leach's armoured position. It is a dud shell. It fails to detonate. But its sheer kinetic energy is enough. It passes clean through the bridge, killing or wounding every single man on it. The ship's navigator, the Admiral's secretary, all of them. Only Captain Leach and a chief yeoman are left standing, untouched, amid a scene of total devastation. Had that shell exploded, the Prince of Wales would have been decapitated. At 6-3, another hit. An 8-inch shell from Prinz Eugen smashes into the radar office, destroying the ship's vital Type 284 gunnery radar. At 6-5, a much more serious impact. A 15-inch Bismarck shell dives deep into the water, just short of the ship, and continues its trajectory underwater. It strikes the hull 25 feet below the waterline, rupturing the fuel tanks and flooding several compartments deep in the ship's bowels. The Prince of Wales immediately takes on over 500 tons of water and begins to list to port. She is wounded, crippled, and taking on more water by the minute. She has been hit 7 times 4 from Bismarck, 3 from Prinz Eugen. Her main guns are offline. Her bridge is a wreck. She is flooding. On the German flagship, Admiral Lutyens watches the Prince of Wales struggling. Her fire has become sporadic, then silent. He has won one of the most decisive victories in modern naval history. He has destroyed 1 capital ship and crippled another in less than 15 minutes. On the bridge of the Prince of Wales, Captain Leach faces an impossible choice. He can stay and be annihilated, a pointless sacrifice. Or he can retreat, save his ship, and most importantly continue to shadow the Bismarck. His duty is no longer to fight. His duty is to report. The entire home fleet is now converging on this patch of ocean, and they must know where the Bismarck is. "Make smoke," he orders. The Prince of Wales turns away again, this time under the cover of a thick, acrid black smoke screen pouring from her funnels. As she turns, her one remaining aft turret, Y turret, finally clears its jam and manages to fire one last, defiant salvo in retreat. At 6:09, the Prince of Wales vanishes into the fog and her own smoke. The Battle of the Denmark Strait is over. Aboard the Bismarck, a massive cheer erupts from the crew. They are victorious. They are invincible. But they are not unscathed. One of the Prince of Wales's final 14-inch shells, fired before her guns failed, has found its mark. It has struck the Bismarck forward, penetrated her hull, and ruptured two of her main fuel tanks. She is not bleeding badly, but she is bleeding, and she is leaving a slick, iridescent trail of oil on the surface of the North Atlantica Trail that the Royal Navy will follow to the ends of the earth. The cheering aboard the Bismarck is ecstatic. It is a wild, unrestrained, primal roar of victory. Men are slapping each other on the back, raising their helmets, and praising their gunnery officer, Adalbert Schneider. In 15 minutes, they have proven the supremacy of German engineering and naval gunnery. They have decapitated the British squadron and are the undisputed masters of the North Atlantic. But on the Bismarck's bridge, the elation is short-lived. The adrenaline is fading, replaced by the cold, hard math of war. Admiral Lutyens receives his damage report. It is not good. The Prince of Wales's 14-inch shelf at last. Defiant shot has done its job. It struck the Bismarck forward, near the bow. It did not strike armour, but it penetrated deep, passing clean through the ship. It ruptured several forward fuel tanks, and critically, it has made the forward 1,000 tons of fuel oil inaccessible. She is also taking on water in the bow, putting her down by the head. And, most damning of all, she is leaking a thick, black, iridescent trail of fuel oil from the gash in her hull. Lutyens, a quiet, calculating, and pessimistic man by nature, understands the implications immediately. His ship is a wounded giant. He cannot engage in high-speed, fuel-intensive convoy raiding. He cannot outrun the entirety of the British home fleet on a commerce-raiding cruise. His primary mission is now impossible. His only mission is survival. He must run for a friendly port. Not back to Germany, the British would be waiting. He must make for the occupied coast of France, for the massive dry docks at Strait Nazaire. At 8:01, Lutyens makes a transmission to Germany. It is a message of victory, but it is laced with his new, grim reality. Battle cruiser, probably Hood, sunk, battleship, King George V or Renown, damaged. Both ships have. Radar. Fuel oil leaking, making for Strait Nazaire. He then turns to his consort, the undamaged Prinz Eugen. He orders Captain Brinkmann to detach and proceed with his own convoy raiding mission. The Bismarck will go on alone. Thousands of miles away, you are in the subterranean heart of the Admiralty in London. The Admiralty War Room. The air is thick with pipe smoke and the frantic energy of men who have not slept. At 6:19, the first, unbelievable signal from the cruiser Suffolk comes in. Hood has blown up. It is received by the duty officers. It is not believed. It is assumed to be a catastrophic coding error. A midshipman is sent to recheck the decryption. He returns, his face pale. "The signal is correct, sir." The news is hand-carried to the First Sea Lord, Admiral Sir Dudley Pound. Pound, a weary, overworked man, walks down to the office of the Prime Minister, Winston Churchill. Churchill is in bed, working from beneath his sheets, when Pound delivers the news. The Prime Minister, who had a deep, personal affection for the Hood, is stunned into silence. Then, a look of cold, unadulterated rage transforms his face. He seizes the phone. He connects to the Admiralty War Room, to the Fourth Sea Lord. His voice is a low, guttural growl that all in the room can hear. "I want the Bismarck sunk. I don't care how you do it. I don't care what it costs. I don't care about the consequences. Sink the Bismarck." That order, born of vengeance, flashes across the globe. It is a signal sent to every British warship in the Atlantic, from Halifax to Gibraltar. It is no longer a battle, it is a blood feud. The greatest naval hunt in history begins. Back in the icy waters south of Iceland, Captain Leach on the Prince of Wales has slowed, his damage control parties working frantically to plug the hole in his hull and shore up the bulkheads. He has rendezvoused with the cruisers Suffolk and Norfolk. They are the shadowers, the hounds. Suffolk's captain, Robert Ellis, is a radar specialist. His new Type 284 radar is the only thing keeping them in the hunt. Through fog, through snow squalls, at a range of 13 miles, Suffolk maintains that fragile, ghostly green pip on her screen. They cling to the Bismarck like grim death, just over the horizon, reporting her every change of course, her every change of speed. And the net is closing. From the east, Admiral John Tovey, Commander-in-Chief of the Home Fleet, is steaming at full speed on his flagship, the King George V, Prince of Wales's sister ship. With him is the mighty aircraft carrier Victorious and the battlecruiser Repulse. From the south, sailing from Gibraltar, is the legendary Force H under Admiral James Somerville. His force includes the carrier Ark Royal and the battlecruiser Renown. From the west, detached from convoy duty, is the battleship Rodney, a slow, old giant, but carrying the only 16-inch guns in the Royal Navy. The Atlantic is no longer an escape route. It is a trap. And the Bismarck, leaking her life's blood into the sea, is steaming right into the center of it. May 24th, 1941, 18 hours, North Atlantic. You are on the bridge of the Suffolk. You have not slept. You have not eaten a hot meal. You are living on key and adrenaline, and your entire world has shrunk to the size of a 9-inch green-tinted cathode ray tube. This is the Type 284 radar display. For 12 agonizing hours, it has been the most important piece of equipment in the world. It shows a single, faint, flickering green pip at a range of 14 miles. That pip is the Bismarck. Your captain, Robert Ellis, stands beside the display, his eyes red-rimmed and raw. His orders are simple. Do not lose contact. You are the hound. You are the lead dog. If you lose that scent, the entire pack, the King George V, the Rodney, the Ark Royal will be hunting blind. The weather is deteriorating. A Force 8 gale is rising. The sea is a chaos of mountainous grey waves and deep, sickening troughs. Your cruiser, a tin can compared to the Bismarck, is corkscrewing through the water, pitching and rolling so violently that men are being thrown from their stations. Aboard the Bismarck, the atmosphere is just as tense. The elation of the morning is gone. The constant, thrumming vibration of the engines is a reminder of their leaking fuel, and they know they are being followed. They can hear the faint, rhythmic ping-ping-ping of the British sonar, ASDIC, on their hydrophones. They know that somewhere, just over the horizon, the British cruisers are watching them. Admiral Lutyens is a man cornered. He decides to make a move. He must break contact. At 18:30, he orders a sudden, 180-degree turn. On the Suffolk's bridge, the radar operator screams, "Contact bearing changing rapidly. She's turning towards us." Captain Ellis doesn't hesitate. "Hard to port. Make smoke." The Suffolk and Norfolk are in a panic. The hunter is suddenly the hunted. They are cruisers, not battleships. A 15-inch salvo from Bismarck would tear them apart. They turn and flee into a squall line, their funnels belching black smoke. The Bismarck's massive bow, down by the head from the flooding, punches through a wave. Her main guns erupt. Boom! The salvo shrieks overhead, landing harmlessly where the Suffolk was just moments before. The maneuver is a success. Under the cover of the turn and the smoke, the Prince Eugen detaches and slips away into the vastness of the Atlantic, unnoticed. Lutyens has saved his consort. Bismarck then turns back onto her southeasterly course, back on the run to France. Captain Ellis, his heart pounding, cautiously turns his ship back. He finds the pip again. The Bismarck is still there. The contact is re-established. The hunt is on. Hundreds of miles to the east, Admiral John Tovey, aboard the King George V, is getting desperate. He is pushing his ships to their absolute limit. But the Bismarck is still pulling away. He needs to slow her down. He has one card to play, and it is a desperate one. He signals the aircraft carrier victorious. Her captain, Henry Bovell, receives the order. Launch strike, torpedo, Bismarck. On the heaving, pitching, soaking wet flight deck of the Victorious, the crews of 825 Naval Air Squadron get the news. They are to attack the Bismarck, in this weather. At night, their aircraft are fairy swordfish. They are string bags, ancient-looking biplanes, covered in fabric. Their top speed is 138 miles per hour, but with a torpedo, they are lucky to make 100 miles per hour, flying directly into the gale. They are slow, obsolete, and vulnerable. Their crews are, for the most part, green. This is their first ever combat mission. At 22:10, 9 swordfish, led by Lieutenant Commander Eugene Esmond, stagger into the air, one by one, off a flight deck that is rising and falling over 50 feet. They vanish into the blackness and the driving rain. 2 hours later, they find her. Aboard Bismarck, the flake alarm, air raid alarm, screams. The lookouts have spotted them. The crew, already on edge, runs to their stations. For the swordfish pilots, the sight is terrifying. The Bismarck lights up like a volcano. Over 100 anti-aircraft guns from the heavy 4.1 inches to the rapid-fire 20 mm and 37 mm cannons open up at once. The sky is filled with a solid, impenetrable wall of red, white, and green tracers, and the black puffs of exploding flak. It is, as one pilot would later say, like flying through a sheet of fire. They dive, they jink, they weave, they drop down to just 50 feet above the raging sea, flying into the wall of steel. One by one, they drop their torpedoes. Aboard Bismarck, the crew is watching the splashes. 1 torpedo, 2, miss, miss. Then, a single swordfish, piloted by Sub-Lieutenant John Jock Moffat, gets a clean run. He drops his tin fish. Bismarck's captain, Ernst Lindemann, screams orders, hard to starboard, full power. The giant ship begins to turn, but it is too late. A massive column of water erupts amidships. A heavy, metallic WHUMP thuds through the hull. A hit. The swordfish turn and flee, one of them so damaged by flak it has to ditch in the sea. On the Bismarck's bridge, the damage reports come in. The crew is shaken, but as the water clears, Lutyens and Lindemann realize the torpedo has struck the main 12.6-inch armored belt. The turtleback, armor behind the belt, has held. The ship is rattled. 1 crewman is dead, the ship's first fatality. But the engines are fine. The steering is fine. The flooding is minimal. The armor has worked. The Victorious's desperate gamble has failed. On the King George V, Admiral Tovey receives the report. The Bismarck is still steaming at 24 knots, still on course for France. Dejection sets in. And as the British fleet plunges through the night, something worse happens. At 3:01, May 25th, the radar operator on the Suffolk stares at his screen. The green pip is gone. He frantically adjusts the gain. He checks the power. Nothing. He reports to the bridge. Contact lost. The Bismarck has used the Suffolk's turn to avoid the Victorious's strike to make her own sharp turn to starboard. She has slipped out of the radar net, doubled back, and is now running southeast. She has vanished. The Atlantic is empty. May 25th, 1941, 11 hours. Admiralty War Room, London. The atmosphere is not just tense, it is funereal. The great plotting table, the size of a ballroom floor, shows the vast, empty expanse of the North Atlantic. On it, the small wooden blocks representing the home fleet King George V, Repulse, Victorious are clustered in the centre. The block for Bismarck is gone. A last known position marker, dated 3/1, is the only sign she ever existed. For 8 hours, there has been nothing, just silence and the crackle of static. Prime Minister Churchill is on the phone every 30 minutes. His demand is the same. Where is she? And for 8 hours, the First Sea Lord has had to give the same agonizing reply. We don't know. The fuel gauges on the British ships are the new enemy. Admiral Tovey, on the King George V, is doing frantic calculations. His flagship and the Repulse are dirty-bottomed. Their hulls are fouled, costing them precious speed and burning extra fuel. They can only continue the hunt for another 36 hours, at most, before they must turn for home, or they will not have enough fuel to make it back. The Rodney is in the same position. The net, once so tight, is dissolving. You are on the bridge of the King George V. The mood is black. Every man, from Tovey down to the youngest lookout, knows they have failed. They lost her. After the Hood sacrifice, after the chase, after the airstrike, they lost her. Then, at 10:30, a signal. Ashore, at the Royal Navy's new Y stations, the radio direction-finding RDF centres a sharp-eared listener, has picked up a long, powerful radio transmission. Aboard the Bismarck, Admiral Lutyens, believing he has shaken his pursuers, has made a fatal, arrogant mistake. He has decided to transmit a 30-minute, detailed battle report to High Command in Berlin, extolling his victory and outlining the Hood's destruction. His radiomen warn him against it. But Lutyens is insistent. The British RDF stations lock onto the signal. They take bearings. The transmissions are triangulated. On the plotting table in London, a new mark is made, a position. They have her. A frantic signal is sent to Admiral Tovey. Bismarck position. 8. Bearing. But then, the second, and nearly fatal, error of the hunt is made. The Admiralty plotters, exhausted and under unimaginable pressure, misread the bearing. They plot Bismarck's position north of Tovey, suggesting she is running for the gap between Iceland and the Faroes, heading back to Germany. Tovey receives the signal. He is a seaman of immaculate instinct, and something feels wrong. Why would Lutyens, low on fuel and damaged, make the longer run home instead of the shorter dash to France? But the signal is from the Admiralty. It is hard intelligence. He must act on it. At 10:47, Tovey gives the most soul-crushing order of his career. Turn 30 degrees north. The entire home fleet, the King George V, the Repulse, the carriers, all of it, turns away from Bismarck's actual path and begins steaming in the wrong direction. For 7 agonizing hours, the British fleet steams north. Every minute, every ton of fuel burned, is taking them further from their quarry. On the Bismarck, the mood is one of cautious optimism. The sea is empty. The sky is empty. They have repaired the torpedo damage. They are still leaking oil, but they are making steady headway. Captain Lindemann believes they have done it. They have escaped. The coast of France, and the umbrella of the Luftwaffe's air cover, is now just over 700 miles away. They are winning the race. Back on the King George V, Tovey is pacing his bridge. He is a man in torment. No further sightings. No new radar contacts. The Admiralty's position must be wrong. His seaman's gut is screaming at him. He finally makes a decision based on instinct alone. He will trust his own read of his opponent. Lutyens is going for France. At 18:10, Tovey countermands the Admiralty's order. Turn 180 degrees, steer south, southeast. The great battleships turn, but the damage is done. Over 150 miles have been lost. The Bismarck is now almost certainly ahead of them. The hunt is no longer a chase. It is a desperate, failing race, and the British are losing. The Repulse and Victorious, critically low on fuel, are forced to detach and head for home. Tovey is left with just his flagship and the Rodney. The entire hunt, the vengeance for the Hood, now rests on one single, impossibly slim chance. An aircraft must find her. May 26th, 1941, 10 hours. 690 miles west of Brest, France. You are strapped into the co-pilot's seat of a PBY Catalina flying boat, call sign ZQZ. You are an American, U.S. Navy Ensign Leonard Tuck Smith, a special observer flying with the British RAF's 209 Squadron. For over 9 hours, you have been on the Milk Run from Hell, a patrol over the most featureless, hostile patch of ocean on the planet. The cold inside the unpressurized aluminum hull is a living thing. The roar of the twin Wasp engines is a monotonous, skull-vibrating drone. Every man on board is exhausted, his eyes raw from scanning the endless, heaving, white-capped grey sea below. You are at the very edge of your fuel and your endurance. You are looking for a ghost in the middle of a hurricane. At 10:10, your British co-pilot, Flying Officer Dennis Briggs, spots a smudge through a gap in the low, scudding clouds. It's not a cloud. It's not a wave. Ship, he says, his voice flat with exhaustion. Bearing green 40. Smith takes the controls. The Catalina banks, dropping through the foul weather. They are low, just 500 feet above the waves. And then, she is there. She is not a ghost. She is a monster. The Bismarck. She is colossal, trailing a wake of white foam, her bow still down by the head, punching through the massive swells, steaming relentlessly for France. For a moment, there is just stunned silence in the cockpit. They have found her. Then, the Bismarck sees them. The German lookouts have been on edge for 48 hours. The ship's flake alarm blares. In an instant, the Bismarck's entire starboard anti-aircraft battery opens fire. The sky around the Catalina is ripped apart by a storm of flak. Red and green tracers, like angry hornets, whip past the cockpit. Black puffs of explosions from the 4.1-inch guns buffet the plane, punching holes in its fabric-covered wings. Hard to port. Get us out. Smith yells, pushing the yoke over, diving the big, clumsy flying boat toward the wave-tops. In the radio compartment, the operator's hand is steady. He is frantically tapping out the most important Morse code signal of the Second World War. DOT, 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 DASH, DASH, DOT, DOT, DOT. SOS, from ZQZ. One battleship, bearing, course. And then, the plaintext confirmation. Bismarck. On the bridge of the King George V, 135 miles to the north, the signal is received. A wild, desperate cheer erupts from the signalman. Admiral Tovey slams his fist on the chart table. Got him. But his elation dies as he plots the position. He is too far away. His fuel state is critical. He cannot, under any circumstances, catch the Bismarck before she reaches the protection of the Luftwaffe. He is beaten. The signal reaches the Admiralty. It reaches Winston Churchill. The entire Hunt the Vengeance for Hood now rests on one ship. Aboard the Ark Royal, Admiral James Somerville knows it. His carrier, sailing with the cruiser Sheffield, is the only asset in range. The weather is now a full-blown force 10 gale. The flight deck is pitching and rolling over 60 feet. It is, by any sane measure, impossible to launch or recover aircraft. But sane left the building when the Hood went down. At 14:50, the order is given. Launch strike. 15 swordfish, their fabric wings flexing in the 60-knot winds, are wheeled onto the deck. They are armed with brand-new duplex magnetic torpedoes, designed to explode under a ship's hull. One by one, they are catapulted into the maelstrom. The pilots fly into a wall of solid rain. They cannot see. They are flying on instruments and faith. Their target is 40 miles away. At 15:50, their radar picks up a contact. A large warship, dead ahead. This is it. Lieutenant Commander John Coode, leading the strike, gives the signal. Attack. The swordfish dive. On the bridge of the HMS Sheffield, Captain Charles Larcom is staring in disbelief. The Sheffield had been sent ahead by Somerville to shadow the Bismarck and maintain visual contact. He sees the swordfish appear out of the rain, his swordfish, from his carrier. They're attacking, he whispers. Action gongs. Hard to starboard, he roars. The Sheffield turns violently as 11 torpedoes drop into the water, aimed directly at her. Fish in the water, port 10, starboard 20. The pilots, their adrenaline pumping, watch their torpedoes run. And then, one by one, they explode. The new magnetic detonators are too sensitive. They are detonating the second they hit the rough, gale-tossed waves. 3 of them, their pistols faulty, fail to detonate at all, and the Sheffield masterfully combs the tracks, steering between them. The swordfish pilots, stunned, watch the Sheffield dodge their attack. They pull up, their torpedoes spent, and begin the long, humiliating flight back to the Ark Royal. They have failed. They have attacked a friendly ship, and they have revealed to the Bismarck no just 12 miles from Sheffield that a British carrier is in the area. It is now 17. Night is falling. The weather is getting worse. The Bismarck is just 12 hours from safety. There is only enough fuel and only enough daylight for one last attempt. Aboard Ark Royal, the armourers are in a state of frantic, furious energy. The magnetic pistols are useless. Rip them out. Fit the contact pistols. The old ones. The reliable ones. On the heaving deck, 15 swordfish are brought up again. This is it. There will be no second chance. May 26th, 1941, 1910 hours. The flight deck of the HMS Ark Royal. It is no longer a deck. It is a bucking, lurching, steel platform of pure chaos. A force 10 gale is raging. The wind is not a howl. It is a solid, shrieking wall of noise, gusting to over 70 miles per hour. The sea is a liquid mountain range, with waves peaking at 60 feet. The Ark Royal is plunging deep into the troughs, her bow disappearing in a cataclysm of white water before being lifted, groaning, to the sky. No aircraft should be able to take off in this. It is a suicidal order. Yet, 15 swordfish biplanes are lined up, their engines straining. Their crews, soaked to the skin, grim-faced, are strapped into their open cockpits. They are the second string, the pilots who did not fly the first disastrous mission. This time, there is no confusion. Their orders are simple. Follow the Sheffield's radio beacon, find the Bismarck, and do not return until you have either spent your torpedo or you are out of fuel. Launch. One by one, the ancient biplanes are flung into the teeth of the storm. The wind grips them, tossing them like paper. One pilot is 20 feet under the level of the flight deck in a trough before his engine can bite and claw him into the air. They form up in the gloom, under a black, boiling ceiling of cloud, and vanish into the driving rain. Aboard the Bismarck, the crew is at action stations. They know the carrier is out there. Their lookouts, straining their eyes in the twilight, are peering into the maelstrom. At 20:47, the flake alarm screams again. They have come, out of the black clouds, in scattered, desperate waves, the swordfish dive. The Bismarck's crew, hardened by the victorious attack, unleash hell. The sky is ripped to shreds by a solid mass of tracer's red, green, white and the percussive, black puffs of heavy flak. The wind is so violent that it is throwing the German shells off target, but it is also throwing the swordfish. Pilots are fighting the storm and the enemy, diving to just 30 feet above the waves to get a clear shot. Torpedo away! Torpedo away! The tin fish drop. This time, the contact pistols are working. The pilots in the attack's first wave watch in horror. 1 torpedo, 2, 3. They slam into the Bismarck's mighty 12.6-inch armoured belt. They explode. They send up massive plumes of water, and they do nothing. The armour is too thick. They are mosquito bites on a rhinoceros. On the Bismarck's bridge, Captain Ernst Lindemann is masterfully conning his ship, turning into the torpedo tracks, presenting his bow, minimizing his target. But the attack is coming from all angles. A second wave of swordfish is boring in from the starboard quarter. A pilot, his face masked by his goggles, his knuckles white on the stick, sees his chance. He is low, fast, and the Bismarck is turning away from him. He drops his torpedo. The torpedo runs true. It is not 1,000,000 to 1 shot, it is 1,000,000,000 to 1 shot. It does not strike the armoured belt. It does not hit the bow. It strikes the Bismarck's unarmoured stern, her Achilles heel. At 20:54, a massive, jarring explosion thuds through the Bismarck's hull. It is not amidships, it is aft. The explosion, 400 pounds of TNT, detonates directly against the 12-ton port rudder. The blast is catastrophic. It seizes the port rudder and jams it hard over, at a 15-degree angle. The explosion also mangles the starboard rudder, rendering it useless. On the bridge, the helmsman is fighting his wheel. "Sir, the helm! It's not responding!" he screams. "She's not answering the helm!" Captain Lindemann immediately understands. Stop starboard engine. Full power port engine. Steer with the engines. The engine room telegraphs chime. The port propeller thrashes the water, but the ship is trapped. The wind, the sea, and the jammed rudder are all working together. The Bismarck, against all the power of her turbines, is locked into an uncontrollable, agonizingly slow turn. To port. She is turning into the wind. She is turning away from France. She is turning towards the oncoming British home fleet. On the bridge, Lindemann and Admiral Lutyens stare at each other. Their faces are pale. They have been struck by the one single blow that could doom them. They are no longer a warship. They are a 2,200-foot-long, 50,000-ton steel coffin, turning circles in the dark, with a broken leg. Aboard the HMS Sheffield, a signal lamp flashes in the gloom, reporting to Admiral Tovey. Bismarck course 330. On the bridge of the King George V, 100 miles away, Admiral Tovey looks at the plot. His quarry is no longer running away. She is coming right for him. Engage, he orders.